Happy Sunday, everyone. Heading to church and then gonna grab some food with the parental units. And then we've got high school small group, all of that jazz. Look at all this stuff from the shower yesterday. So I thought I broke my tripod, but I didn't. So that's always fun. Nellie and I are at the dog park. She's too distracted by all the smells to play with me. One day last week, we talked a little bit about the idea of stories in our life having stories. And I mentioned that there's always going to be disruptions in our stories, and these disruptions are a huge part of what makes our story so great and so beautiful. So a lot of times there'll be things that we're supposed to do, right? That we just run from. And so when you look back at the same scripture in Hebrews that we looked at last week to talk about stories, there's people listed there, Bible characters listed that don't start off their stories in a great way. And I think it's important for us to remember that just because we don't start off our stories in the best way doesn't mean that they won't end in the best way, and that we can't do God's work and further God's kingdom. There's a quote that I'm sure you've all heard, and it goes like this, right? God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And I think that a lot of times the reason that we run from our calling is because we don't feel equipped. I just want to take a second to speak to that, because we're not doing it alone. None of these things that we're called to do, we're never in it alone. And I just think that that's important for us to remember. Nellie has been looking out this window ever since we moved in. I love it. It's so cute. So we're kind of going to play with that tonight in our high school stuff. So this piece of paper is not equipped to fly, right? But I really want it to. So how are we gonna make it fly? Boom. We just equipped that piece of paper to fly. That might have been the worst paper airplane I've ever made. So I'm not that good at making paper airplanes, but when God equips us to what we're called to, God knows what God's doing. And so we're never going to be a crappy paper airplane that falls straight to the floor. But that's beside the point.